Well, I finally got the apron attached to the saddle. Noticed how I got the terminology on that right. Anyway, I had a heck of a time. I had this thing on and off of there half a dozen times or more. I had a heck of a time with those half nuts, getting them lined up. I figured out that you have to put those in before you put this up. You have to set it up and put the top one on the pins, and then somehow get it to line up with these dowel pins here. But then you also have to put the lower one in and get it in the slot, because it won't fit in there once it's up there tight. The lower one, then you can just bring it up and pop it on the pin, and then once you do that, then you can put the gib in there. But the gib is kind of a pain to put in there too once it's all together and tight, because you got to kind of go at an angle. And anyway, we got it in there, and it works the way it's supposed to now. I put the rack piece back on there and got that working, and the worm screw, it's the main drive screw on there, I got that on there. Now I need to put some oil in the apron in the gear case there and get that oiled. I still want to clean up my cross slide and other parts on there before I put all that stuff together, but this is nice and clean now and everything's on there pretty good. So I went ahead and disassembled the compound screw. It's got some thrust washers right in here inside this body here. And then it's got a gear on here that engages with this transverse gear chain here to move that back and forth under power. I cleaned up the cross slide in the ways, the gibs and everything else in there, washed them down real good. I got quite a bit of black stuff out of there. And these edges here were kind of rough where they chamfered these off in a 45, but they were pretty rough. I took a file to them and just smoothed them up a little bit. And same with the points of these dovetails here. I clean those bearings up, grease those up real good with some Megaplex Moly grease, and that works pretty smooth. I got that all assembled now. Figured out how the gib goes in there and got it in there tightened up, and so that's all cleaned up and working pretty good. I got probably too much oil down there in that circle for the pivot circle for the compound. Anyway, all of this is pretty good now, pretty nice now. It works, slides back and forth, they're pretty good. I went ahead and put the handles back on these, on everything, and filled up a little oil can with some of that Vactra number 2 whey oil you're supposed to use on this, and I wiped a little bit of that on everything, all the open surfaces and stuff, so it's all got lots of oil on it to collect dust. Well, I decided to go ahead and take the compound apart and clean it up. And I'm just as glad I did, because it's got that same black grease and oil. It's nasty in there. There was a pretty good build up of gunk here around this nut. So I'll get that all cleaned up and lubed up with some new grease and put that back together, and then I can put it on. I got the compound all tore down, cleaned up, lubed up, and reassembled, and it works pretty good now. I didn't do too much to it. I knocked some of the sharpness off these edges where they were chamfered around here, and some of the burrs off some of the places where it was milled. I tried to take apart the tool post, and I got it partially disassembled. It's a piston style tool post, and I don't know how to get this pivot the part out of it. I think you pull these pistons out and then pull it up out of there, but I don't know. I didn't get it out anyway. But I did take these tabs here off the pistons, clean those up, clean the bottom up. There's a bushing that goes all the way down through here for the size of this nut, or this bolt that holds it down. And anyway, I got that out and cleaned that up. That wasn't as bad as the rest of the lathe, but I got it cleaned up and put some whey oil on everything there and cleaned it up. So that stuff is pretty much done. That all works pretty good so far. We'll do the tailstock now. I was kind of debating whether or not to do that tail post or not, because that was kind of supposed to be set up and centered and height and all of that stuff, but it's still pretty dirty, so I don't know. I'll look at it and see. I'll clean up the outside anyway and see what I go from there. Okay, it's time for a test run. I got everything back together. The backsplash is on. I went down and got a cable and made up a cable. It recommended a 14 gauge cable, and I got a 12 gauge instead. I got a plug for my 220 volt outlet. Got it wired in back there to the box, and I plugged it in, and the power light came on, And I've got everything set up for my first run. I've got it in the slow speed, which is number 1, and B, which is 70 RPM for the spindle speed. I've got everything everything off, the carriage travel and all of that stuff off. So I'll follow the instructions here and see what we can do about getting this turned on. Okay, I heard a relay kick on then. We got the power start on. Alright, down. Alright, there it's going. I'm going to put a little bit of chain lube on his gear train back here. Don't know that that helped anything. Okay. Now we press emergency, and that shut everything off. That works. It starts up again. Now we get the inching button. That works. Okay. Now we got to do a spindle break-in procedure. Alright, so to run the spindle break-in procedure, we run it at 70 RPM, first forwards and then backwards for 10 minutes each. There's forwards, and it's 20 minutes after 10. So we'll go till 10:30 on that, go in that direction, then we reverse the direction and go the other direction for the same. Just for grins and giggles, I put this in gear, and going down is moving the cross slide. It's feeding it feeds pretty slow, which is fine. Okay, go the other way. Now that's turning the whole apron. That's moving it away from the headstock. I wonder how you get it to go the other direction. Oh, this is how you get it to go the other direction, okay. There we go. Okay, now we'll try that again. Okay, up is the apron. Now it's moving the right direction. Okay, we'll let this run for a little while. It's running pretty smooth. Getting smoother as time goes by here. Sounds like not as much rattling in the gear head there. There's 10 minutes on in forward at 70 RPMs. So now we switch it over and reverse it for 10 minutes at 70 RPMs. And I've got the power feed for the carriage feed going on, and it's brought it down a little bit, but it's pretty slow. So that's something I'm going to have to figure out, is how to adjust the gear train for the carriage feed. Anyway, we're still breaking this in, so warming this up. So, and that bearing is not hot. Neither one of those bearings they're both cold to the touch. So that's no big deal there. Alright, that's down. That's up. Alright. And that reverses the carriage feed too, so